Nate Morabito going to come in now. We want to give a little bit of perspective here. So, as I said a little bit earlier, we are remembering Iryna Zarutska. The death obviously happened a year ago now, Nate, and a number of our reporters, including yourself, they've been working on this Iryna's Law, getting some numbers behind this and updating folks. Now, it ends cashless bail for those considered violent offenders or repeat offenders, which that was the suspect. I forget his name now, but
Carlos Brown.
Yes, to Carlos Brown. That's why this all came about, because of his past history with police and law enforcement as a whole. So update us on where we were a year ago and now with this law that's on the books, and hopefully keeping folks that are violent that shouldn't be on the street in jail. What did you find through your investigation?
Yeah, I mean, number one, look, this limits the discretion that judges have. That was a goal of this, and another intended goal was to keep the community safer. Now, we can't really tell you if the community is safer. We're still waiting to kind of figure out what the data shows us in that area. We do know that people are being held longer, and more people are being held at the jail after they're arrested. They're not getting out maybe as quickly as they used to, right?
Okay.
The question is, and we're not comparing loss of life to money here, let me be clear about this, but there is a cost associated with this. The cost on the front end of this was the death of Iryna Zarutska, right? And that's a cost you can't quantify. We know we've talked a lot about her impact on this community, how she fled her home country looking for safety, and then a random attack on the light rail. So I just want to be really clear about that. There's two different things. But when you're trying to keep the community safe, there's also a financial cost that comes with that. In part, according to the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, according to Mecklenburg County Criminal Justice Services, because state lawmakers, when they created this new law, which took effect December 1st, did not give these agencies money to enforce the law. So what does that mean? Well, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office tells us, and I've seen the data, that number one, they exceeded their jail capacity earlier this year.
Right.
Jail capacity is about 1,900. They're getting closer to 2,200 inmates right now.
Okay.
So that jail, number one, isn't built for that many people. It's not insured for that many people. It's not, for safety reasons, it's not supposed to have that many people. So we know the Sheriff's Office is going to open Jail North on September 1st. They've already opened up some pods and have paid employees more money to work overtime. They have inmates sleeping on what they call bunks on the floor.
Got it.
At that jail. That's also not uncommon at surrounding counties too, in part because of Iryna's Law. So in overtime alone, the Sheriff's Office tells us they're spending $44,000 more per pay period to pay detention officers.
Okay.
And then we talked to a supervisor who told us the detention officers are stressed. They are kind of getting really pushed to work longer hours, and it's taking a toll on them. We also know that inmates are sleeping on the floor in common areas that are not supposed to have inmates sleeping on them, right? So you can imagine that's not necessarily comfortable. Now, some people may say, well, they're inmates. These are people that are not convicted yet.
Right.
Right? They're being held ahead of their trial, and they're
Right.
human beings as well. Then you have to feed these people as well. This year's budget came with $660,000 in increase to feed the inmates,
Okay.
because of the expectation that there will be more of them. So we know more inmates are now being held at the jail, partially because there's more arrests too, I should say, Colin,
Got it.
but also because they are to be held. There's a really clear line now if someone needs to be held or released. And we also know that every time someone's booked into the jail over at Mecklenburg County Criminal Justice Services, they are completing a risk assessment. And that's helping a judge decide what the amount of risk is if this person is released back in the community. What are the chances that they may commit another crime? What are the chances they may not show up to court when their hearing shows up, right? There's a lot of factors that come into it, but their criminal history, clearly a big part of it. The severity of the alleged crime in this case, a big part of it.
Right.
The number of risk assessments has increased significantly, as you'd imagine. If every person booked needs a risk assessment and there are more people getting booked, there are more risk assessments that are needed to be done. In the county's place, they have had to hire additional staff, expand their weekend staffing to try to meet the demand. And again, I'm looking at the dollar figure, kind of tasked with the where's the money side of this
Right.
Terrible situation. And that's $268,000 cost to hire 4 more people. So if we just look at, not even the full overtime, we're talking about $1 million right now of impact at the least, since this went into effect, about 9 months ago.
Right.
So you also hear from Mecklenburg County Criminal Justice Services, we support the intention of this law. We think it's smart. We want to be safer. We want the community to be more safe. But we needed money. There wasn't money given to us to enact this. And so they're kind of being stretched thin. They've had to ask for more money. And we also know that surrounding counties, Cabarrus and Gaston, also told me that this has had a bit of an impact for them too. Union County, interestingly enough, told me that they didn't have the spike in their jail population that they expected they would. So kind of a nominal impact so far there. The next question will ultimately be, how is this sustainable long term?
Right.
Will the county, every time a new budget comes around, have to foot the bill to house more people? Will we have to eventually build more space to house people? How is this going to work long term? Because right now the county is footing the bill.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part that when you look at the reason for enacting this law, sometimes people don't see the nuance in it, right? No one should randomly be murdered on public transportation.
No.
That is not the city that we want to live in, right?
Right.
We want to feel safe at all times. So how do we support a system that keeps us safer, that makes sure money is coming through to safely house people, to make sure that employees are doing the workload that they need to do and can do, and not, overburdening people long term? I think everyone expected there would be a transition period, and we're clearly in the middle of it right now, Colin. But I asked the sheriff's office, I asked Major Aby, he's the one we interviewed for this story, I said, a lot of this came down to safety. Have you all seen any positives from the change in law? And he told me, we've not seen any positives from this law. We've just seen negatives.
Interesting.
So that's an interesting kind of take on it. I mean,
right.
This is a politically charged issue,
Yeah.
right? And it's hard, again, to say, are we safer? You'd have to imagine the people in the community think so. We don't know that for certain, but we do know there is a financial cost, there's a human cost when it comes to implementing the law. Does that outweigh the human cost that created the law in the beginning? We're talking about one life caught way too short. And that's something that lawmakers at the local and at the state level are going to have to continue debating.
Well, and if we frame this against the numbers that have recently been out from CNPD about violent crime, decreasing and being down. I can think about all the other initiatives they have, the corridors of opportunity, some of the safety initiatives that the new chief, Stella Patterson, has put in place as well. It's very interesting that, as you said, that there have been more negatives than it seems net positives from this law, because I guess you wouldn't necessarily expect that, right? You'd want necessarily violent offenders off the streets, particularly obviously in this type of situation, which obviously was the catalyst for this Iryna's law to happen, this unfortunate and tragic murder. But again, I won't go into too many of the negatives, but did he share some of those with you, Nate?
No, I mean, they're looking at the financials.
Okay.
That's what they're looking at. Their capacity in their jail, how much money it's costing, how much their staff is overburdened.
Got it.
I do think that there needs to be a real study about what the impact of this law is, aside from that. I mean, if the goal is for us to be safer, so what's that effect? Are there people, and this is on journalists too, are there people that are being held that eventually are released, and are convicted or whatever they may do, serve the time, they go out and reoffend again? I mean, this is a long-term project here to figure out what the long-term impact is. I just think it's an interesting debate, because whenever there's a decision in Raleigh, there are ramifications.
Right.
And so much of it becomes political that we kind of lose sight of the people. Even I was in the jail. Working on this story.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you walk or drive through uptown. I'm sure you do. Mm-hmm. But you just see all these big government buildings all over the place.
Right.
And there are people that, number one, work in those buildings, and then there are people that are housed in a building. You know what I mean? So there are real people that are impacted by this.
Right.
And at the same time, you don't want someone to die in vain and us not take notice, right? So it's kind of a balancing act here. And I'll be curious to see what happens in the coming years when it comes to this issue. What are we doing to make sure the right people are held before trial, and then the right people are released before trial?
Yeah.
You know, you're innocent until proven guilty, and there is a research-based risk assessment program that kind of determines, you know, what level of risk a person is, and if a person is a risk of a 1 or a 2 or a 3, should they be held in jail? That's up for the community to ultimately decide, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have to see those numbers eventually. It's such a big issue, and if you look at the court docket on one given day, you know, I started to. I mean, it's just overwhelming. The number of people that are cycling through the courts is unbelievable, and it's really critical that our government, the local and the state level, are tracking this and trying to figure out the positives and negatives, because you have to imagine there are both in this situation. They're usually somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about recidivism as well, right? I mean, this has to play into this, and I think, you know, it does go a long way showing some of the other programs and maybe some of the other efficient ideas and initiatives that maybe could help in this manner. I know CMPD may be looking at that, right? In this response, I know CATS already has a number of things rolling out over the fall and in October that they're going to do to kind of quell some of the security issues and concerns that folks have had around public transit here. So again, I think folks are listening and hoping to see some impact and some effective impact, I think, as a whole, but obviously you don't want the negative impacts also. So Nate, thank you so much. Your story is going to be on at 11 again tonight?
Actually, 6 o'clock.
Okay. We're moving you around tonight.
I know.
Keep me on our toes. That's good, though, for our viewers as well. So watch again tonight at 6 p.m. And then we will be having more Iryna's Zarutska coverage for you tonight through our 7 o'clock stream. And I think Nate's package will be a part of that. So if you miss it at 6, come back at 7. We'll have more for you. Nate, thanks so much for your time.
Of course.
All right, folks.